Welcome to the Upland Nation podcast. I'm Scott Linden, your host. Glad you could join me. A very special kind of industry insider edition this week. We have one of the folks who's been integrally involved in new formulations of Purina Pro Plan for our dogs. So if you have an older dog or a dog with digestive issues, or you will soon, Dr. RuthAnn Lobos will outline all the specifications for these two new critical formulations coming down the pike in the next few days from Purina. In our Fix It segment, get your dog warm again after a winter hunt with a Pro Guide tip. And on our social media, what are you getting your dog for Christmas? That's what we'll be talking about, and it's all made possible by Mid-Valley Clays and Shooting School, TruLock choke tubes, Purina Pro Plan Sport dog food, Sage and Breaker gun care products, Cable Gangs tie-out systems, Pointer shotguns, Heartland Lodge, and High Vis sights. Well, around here, as the weather cools more and more, pigeon keeping becomes a higher priority. They don't mind the cold. In fact, they're probably leading a life of Riley in their loft. They've got everything they need as long as it doesn't freeze. And that becomes the issue around here. So I've got all their water systems wired literally with heat cables so that no matter where I am and no matter how cold it gets, something's going to keep them hydrated. Just like any other animals, it sure makes sense to have redundancy in that world. And I have two kinds of water systems just in case. Seems to work so far. And if you are keeping pigeons, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The last thing you need is one of your water systems to fail. If you want more on that and some of the other topics that you've been asking about recently, let me direct you to findbirdhuntingspots.com. Lots of information there, not just on finding new public access ground and maybe even some private ground, but also on taking care of your dog and everything else that has to do with great hunting trips. Findbirdhuntingspots.com. Now, on the social pages, I asked the question, what are you getting your dog for Christmas? And some of the answers are worth sharing at this point. If for no other reason, then maybe it will help you. I'll start. We've given up on plush toys because a wire hair will take them apart in a matter of moments. We finally figured out part of that is the squeaky thing inside, so we wouldn't get those anymore. And even if somebody gives us one, the first thing I do is amputate the squeaky thing. And then I realized that Flick's joy beyond finding birds is taking apart the toys. So instead of plush toys at $9.95 at the local pet store, or even great advice from a listener a couple years ago, buying them at the thrift store used, I just buy bales, literally bales of flannel, felt, from the craft stores, or Amazon has a craft store kind of thing. Buy a bunch of those and just dole them out until he parts it into little pieces. Then we pick it up and throw it away and bring out a new one. Cheaper, just as fun, and no squeaky toy dissection required. Speaking of squeaky toys, Cork Green says he's getting Barney treats and toys. And if Cork gets lucky, Barney may also get a Brittany brother. Well, good luck on that one, Cork. You must be farther along on the evolutionary chain than we are here. We're still negotiating for a new puppy. Steve Zirkle, can't wait to see you, my friend. Santa is bringing Archie lamb chop number 4. I think I know which one you mean. It's a toy, or at least it starts as a toy until it becomes shredded and scattered around the house. Jeff Powers getting his dog a new collar, and always a good one. Jake Notner says a toy last year's was finally shredded enough to be snuck into the trash a couple weeks ago. You're not fooling anybody, Jay. Your dog knows that and can't wait to open his gift. And finally, Harvey Story says his dog, she got new boots a few days ago. That is plenty, and good on you, man. Yeah, there are so many times when boots should be on everybody's Christmas list. How about as a stocking stuffer? I know that's backwards, isn't it? Think about it. Put boots in the stockings. You can do it with dog boots. Anyway, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah to everybody out there. Celebrate in your own unique way, and then take your dog hunting. That portion of the Upland Nation podcast brought to you by PointerShotguns.com. If you're still looking for a gift for yourself or for somebody else, remember the broad selection of gauges, configurations, colors at PointerShotguns.com. If you want something just a little bit different, you want to stand out in the field, there's all those Cerakote colors. Very affordable side-by-sides with case hardening. If you're looking for a semi-automatic or a youth model, they've got it. Take a look at the entire selection at PointerShotguns.com. Find a local dealer or check out one of the big boxes like Bass Pro and Cabela's. They've got a selection all the time, and especially this time of year. And SageandBreaker.com is my constant companion. I open that truck vault at the end of the day. The first thing I do is run a bore cleaning tool through there. Then I spray a little bit of that CLP on all the bare metal, wipe it off, put it away. It's ready for the next day. Protected from corrosion, protected from dust. Learn more about all their products. And when new ones come down the pike, the only way you're going to hear about them is from me and from the emails you get. So sign up at SageandBreaker.com. Well, the last time we were together at Pheasant Fest. Now we're together digitally, and that's better than most ways, and I appreciate that. From Nestle Purina, the Pro Plan folks, RuthAnn Lobos. She's a senior veterinarian for Purina, and I don't know that I've ever seen that many initials after a name, RuthAnn. DVM, we know, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, but then CCRT and CVAT. Bring us up to speed on the wacky world of veterinary medicine.
Sure. So the CCRT is the Certified Canine Rehabilitation Therapist. And then the CVAT is the Certified Veterinary Acupuncture Therapist. So basically, I'm certified. We can't call it physical therapy, so we call it rehabilitation. But basically, physical therapy for dogs and cats, and also acupuncture as well.
I love it. Well, you're as they would say, a utility infielder, and glad to have you once again on the Upland Nation podcast. We're here for one specific purpose, and we'll get to that in a moment. Yeah, everybody, so just be patient. But let's get to the important stuff first. You recently hunted Nebraska, and I got to know more about how that went for you. I'm missing that state so much right now.
Yeah, so this was our second trip out to Nebraska. The first one, I would say, was a big learning opportunity, and about 75% of the corn was still standing. So we were up against it. The birds, 1,000% won. I think we actually only had one shot of a rooster that was within range, and we didn't really see any other birds for 2.5 days.
Wow.
It was a little bit soul crushing. This last time, Mother Nature also kind of put us through to the screws. We hunted Friday, Saturday, and Saturday there were 50 to 60 mile an hour winds, 30 plus mile an hour sustained winds.
Wow.
And so it was tough hunting. I will say I was of the three of us, I was the only one who got a rooster in the bag on Friday. And more of the corn was down. So we were seeing birds, which is always makes the walk a little easier, always makes the vest a little lighter when you actually see the birds flushing and all of that. So I would say we will be back. The hunting the corners and those edges of the crop circles were just like, to me, that when we only hunt one dog at a time, and so going across these huge parcels with one dog, we have a 10, almost 11-year-old Flushing Labrador. And then we have a very green 1.5-year-old wire-haired pointing Griffon. And with one dog trying to hunt a huge parcel like that is just, I think, overwhelming for the dog and for us. So hunting those corners was certainly the way to go, and made it much more enjoyable, even if we only got one bird. Because I'd rather a long walk in a field with a dog than any day in the office, for sure.
Yeah, well, that's why we're all here, of course. And yeah, yeah. So you didn't hit the sand hills at all out there. You were doing basically rooster hunting.
Yes. Yep. Sticking to the roosters. We did flush a few quail. And by the time my brain registered that that was not a hen and that was actually a quail, my shotgun was nowhere near my shoulder to be fired. So a little bit of learning on my part for sure with that.
Well, what did you learn from that experience? Because we're always trying to cope with the challenges that you face there. Did you learn anything about hunting in such drastic conditions?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the big one of being patient. And then sometimes, even when you think, okay, it's super windy, we should hunt little like the ravines because and right where there's a food plot, because that's where the birds would be hunkered down. Logically, to us, we are not birds, and so it's important, I think, to just always like stay creative, and come up with different strategies and approaches when it was so windy and we thought they would be right on that edge, just below where the wind was. It actually turned out the roosters that we flushed on that windy Saturday were actually pretty low, way down at the bottom, where it didn't appear to the humans that that would be where you would want to be if you are a rooster. But alas, that's where they were.
You know, I had this discussion recently, and I'm going to say it again because I need to try and remember about my next hunt. And that is, a lot of times game birds are like us. We're just going to go to the place where we're most comfortable, even if
Yep.
it's the wrong place. And it must have been way down there.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Good. And that's not all. You actually went on quite a bit longer trek a while back. Congratulations. Anybody who finishes the New York Marathon deserves a medal. Tell me in a nutshell, what was the highlight of that whole race for you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the highlight is the city of New York. They estimate that about 2.2 million people come out to watch the marathon, and it is just insane. I feel like this is what maybe Taylor Swift feels like as she's walking into her concert. I don't know, but I always run with my name across my chest because when it gets hard to hear someone cheer and call out your name specifically is a big motivator for me.
I love it.
So the people of New York were cheering for me as if I were their best friend, closest family member, whatever it might be. And I love the fact that when you talk to people who live in New York City, they truly say that like the best day in New York is Marathon Sunday. And they come out in full force and scream their little lungs out, for 8 hours out there. And it is just a wonderful experience.
Well, again, congratulations. That is a heck of an accomplishment. I know you've done it several times. So, what does that mean? Anyway, there's a great cliche somewhere in there. You probably heard them all, but good on you. Let's talk
Thank
a
you.
little bit about what you do at Purina and bring us up to speed on. Then we'll jump into what's new over there. So, what is your basic function with Purina?
I would call myself the Swiss Army knife of Purina. So I get thrown into a lot of different scenarios, a lot of different audiences that I talk to, whether it is the upland game hunter, avid dog lover, whether that is some of our leadership that comes in from some of our retail partners like Chewy or PetSmart or Petco, when we are working on partnerships with them. I will often lecture about our science and our expertise and our innovation in the pet food space. And then I also just talk to everyday regular consumers, veterinarians, really helping them to decode the mystery that is canine and feline nutrition. And I know we're focusing on dogs here, but I don't want to forget about our cat friends. And because it's a super confusing world out there, and there's all kinds of marketing, and there's all kinds of um, pictures and claims, and sometimes there's shaming if you feed your dog one way versus another. And so really, like, I feel like my role at Purina is to really help to decode that. And then depending on the audience that I'm talking to will depend on kind of the level of sciency that I get.
I get it. And by the way, I've enjoyed every encounter we've had. A couple of years back, I was over in St. Louis, and you kind of brought a group of us up to speed on all of that and learned a lot and have since learned even more. And funny, I'm getting a lot of messages and calls these days about exactly this sort of thing. So our meeting today is kind of propitious in a lot of ways. There have been a lot of questions to me that you can answer better than I could ever answer or make up answers to. The first one is maybe the one that we should start with. This one. There's news coming from Purina right now that uh, we need to know about as avid sport dog owners.
Yeah, so we are launching a new line under the Pro Plan umbrella. It's called Advantedge, and so I now no longer understand how to spell Advantage correctly because now in Purina Pro Plan world, there it is an EDGE at the end, the Advanced Edge that exists, and really, what I love about this, so we have two different lines. One is called Digestive Support Plus, and one is Senior Support Plus. And what I really love about this is it really is highlighting how we have the expertise and the thought leadership and the continued innovation in the gut health space and in the senior dog space. And it really combines all of that to put the best interest of the dog first and foremost and get the best health and life changing nutrition literally into their bodies. And then that makes the two-legged side of that relationship even stronger.
You know, Purina is probably, I don't want to sound like a commercial, but you're at the leading edge when it comes to these kind of formulations for both dogs and cats. We've seen the TV commercials, we've seen the print ads. This one sounds like it was a long time coming for a reason. Now, you start talking about how you're going to change a formulation for a senior dog. Imagine that takes a little bit of research.
It does. And I will say at Purina, safety is paramount. So we have to make sure first and foremost that any new ingredient or any new approach is not going to compromise the health and well-being of the pets that we feed. So there's a lot of safety that goes in before that formula even gets created. And then it builds. So for example, if we look at our digestive support plus, and I still practice as a veterinarian, so I'm in a clinic a couple of days a month. And I would say that the research out there holds water in the true clinic space where it's number one or number two top reason why people bring their pet into the veterinarian. is for GI upset. So there is a real pet need out there. And also, just as an aside, I know we tend to refer to the Friday after Thanksgiving as Black Friday. In the veterinary space, we refer to it as Brown Friday.
Oh, I bet.
Um, because of all of the GI upset that we see in practice. So it is real out there. So this new digestive support plus really combines like not only a reason for the dog, but also a stressor on the two-legged consumer. Because nobody likes to get woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning and their dog needing to go outside or come home after an event and there is a mess in the house. So it is a real need for them as well. But it also, as we talked about, really capitalizes on our decades of research. So we, as Purina, first started adding prebiotics to food back in 1998. Now, I would say most pet foods out there, if you pick them up, you're walking down the pet food aisle or scrolling on a website, they will list prebiotics as, part of their diet. And it has now become pervasive in the pet food space. But what most people don't know is that in 1998, almost 30 years ago, we actually started adding this to pet food. And so it's a fiber source. And what those prebiotics do is help to feed the natural microflora that are in the GI tract. And then there's probiotics. So our probiotics are the live bacteria. And so they help when there's GI upset and the balance of bacteria gets out of whack. Those probiotics, that live bacteria comes in and restores the balance. Um, so we started doing that at Purina about 20 years ago. And so now this diet with Digestive Support Plus combines prebiotics, probiotics, and now there's a new space called postbiotics. Um, and that's an area where people are like, what is happening? But all of that really helps to not only help their digestion, but what a lot of people don't really know is that 70% of the immune system is associated with the GI tract. So if we want our dog to be as healthy as possible and have the healthiest immune system possible, they have to have good digestion.
That's pardon the pun. That's a lot to swallow, you probably have been chewing on it for quite a while. Uh, it sounds like there's a different formulation, if you will, in these new formulations than in, say, Pro Plan. What are the major differences? And then let's talk about senior as a separate category.
Yeah. So, and I will say what I love about Pro Plan is you can get really specific in the needs of your specific pet. And so there's, when we combine the cat and dog side, there's over 140 different formulas that are out there. I cannot keep them all straight on their finer nuances. But I certainly know the big buckets and how they relate. So, there may be I love that we understand how canine athletes work and how their endurance is. And so, our Pro Plan Sport 30/20 is amazing in this space. And probably a lot of your listeners feed that. And I thank them for that for sure. But it is, when we look at this finer space of digestion, and there are different ways to approach it. And as a veterinarian, when a dog first presents, it's their first offense with some sort of GI upset. We take it. I like to call it like the slow roll approach. It's like, okay, we're gonna make one change here, see if that can right the ship, get things back to where they need to be. And then if it doesn't, the cells in the GI tract turn over about every 7 days. So what I like to do is like, okay, if we're going to have a new approach to feeding your dog, let's do it for at least 10 days. Let's see how it adjusts, see how the gut kind of balances itself out. If that's not working, let's try a different approach. And so what I love is that this is kind of another step, if you will, before your dog might need to go on like a prescription diet or a therapeutic diet. And so it's a good way to kind of go from maybe a regular pro plan to maybe our sensitive skin and stomach that's more highly digestible to this digestive support plus before you have to go and only get your food from your veterinarian.
Got it. So generally speaking, if we have let's go over to the senior side. If we have an older dog, and I understand that that's relative. What would the protein and fat ratio be in your senior formulation versus Pro Plan Sport?
Yeah, so it's going to be a little bit lower in protein, just slightly, because actually it's one of the myths that's out there that even though it's been debunked, I don't know, like 5 million times, people still hold on to senior dogs need lower protein to protect their kidneys. And that is not true at all. um, they actually need a really good source of available protein because their body doesn't digest it and absorb it as well as they did when they were a younger dog. So in the senior support plus, it's going to be a little lower than it is in our in the Pro Plan Sport 3020, and a little bit lower in fat because as our dogs age and their metabolism does go down just like people, and so we want to make sure we keep them in an ideal body condition, but still support their changing digestive needs and brain health needs and those sorts of things, which is what our Senior Support Plus does.
So are we talking 24-15, or what are those ratios?
Yeah, so it's going to be a 27-17.
Got it. Yeah, so just a minor crank downwards to take into account. Basically, the risk of putting on weight, it sounds like.
Yeah, so a little bit of managing their weight. What it also does is help to support their brain aging. So as our dogs age, their brain's ability to use glucose actually starts to go down. I like to use the analogy of the pizza that you've had in the refrigerator sitting in the cardboard box for the last like 2 or 3 days. And you open it and you're like, well, that was good 72 hours ago. Now, not so much. And so that's kind of how the brain looks at glucose. And so it looks at it, and then as it ages, as the brain ages, it's kind of like glucose is like, I'd rather something else. I'd rather starve than have glucose. And so
Wow.
we know that if you're not feeding the brain does start to shrink. Those brain cells get fewer in number. And so we really need to find an alternative energy source for the brain. And so that's where we use medium chain triglycerides. Big word, I know. But if we think most people know coconut oil, and I know like in a lot of spaces, coconut oil is looked at as like the panacea. It's going to help you have beautiful hair and skin and younger and lose weight and all of this. But what the magic of coconut oil is those medium chain triglycerides, and they can actually be broken down and serve as an energy source for a dog's brain. And so that is, I would say, that's one of the magical ingredients that is in our Senior Support Plus that helps our dogs that are 7 years and older.
Well, I may as well just close up shop and go home. I've learned way too much already for the day. But fascinating stuff. And now that I think about it, my 8-year-old wire hair never was really much in the brain department. So anything that can help there, I'm going to glom onto it. Yeah, this doesn't start just internally in St. Louis and around the country where you all are spread out, but there must be market demand of some sort. Your marketing department, the research guys, the bean counters, they all look at this stuff as well. Is there you mentioned digestive issues after Thanksgiving, senior issues every day. Those must be both very high priorities. You mentioned digestive, yes. Aging, are dogs living longer?
Yeah, that's a great point. They are. So our senior pets, both cat and dog, are the largest part of our pet population.
Wow.
And latest research shows that 2/3 of households in the United States have a senior pet in them. And so, it's I would say I'd love to take credit as a veterinarian that it is our magical powers as practitioners that have our dogs living longer. As a Purina veterinarian, I'd love to say it's our magical nutrition that has them living longer, but it's really a kind of a combination of all of that. It is better nutrition, better understanding of our dog's physiology. It's better medicine. So we have more advancements, more technology at our fingertips as veterinarians. And it's also from the pet owner side of things where, it used to be the dogs roamed free. Then they went and they were in fenced backyards. Then they are now living in our houses, maybe sleeping in our bed with us. And I'm based out of Boulder, Colorado, and there are times where I'm walking down the street and I look in a stroller and it's not a human, but it's a dog. So there is that changing dynamic of the relationship that pet owners have with their dogs that now they do. It's not like, oh, we broke his leg, we're going to put him down. It's like, no, I mean, they're doing kidney transplants now at some of the specialty hospitals when cats go into kidney failure, heart transplants, things like that, even 30 years ago, we were not doing in veterinary medicine. But, um, you know, for example, Tom Brady just cloned his dog. So, there are all kinds of changes to the dynamic of the relationship that then allows these cats and dogs to have not only a better health span, but also a better lifespan.
And just for the record, right before the break, tell me this. In your world, how old is a senior dog?
Well, on average, 7 years old makes them senior.
So we should, even if we are not quite there yet, we should start thinking about that. Like I said, my dog's 8, and I still can't believe he doesn't even act like an adolescent yet. So we're waiting
Right.
on that. But we do need to start being more aware of that as our dogs approach age 7 and then beyond. There are certain things that we should probably look to, outward indications of a dog's seniorness. Are there a couple that are obvious that we can see without putting them on your table at the clinic?
Sure. One of them is, the getting up after laying down. If that takes longer, going up and down the stairs takes a little longer. There are signs too where like if their hair coat starts to change. It gets a little more bristly, maybe a little drier. Again, because they're not absorbing their nutrients as well as they did and as efficiently as they did when they were adult dogs.
Got it. That's a good place to take a break. You're listening to the Upland Nation podcast. This is an insider edition. Dr. RuthAnn Lobos, senior veterinarian at Purina. We're talking about those 2 new formulations among the many, but these are brand new. Advantedge, I get it. That's definitely a marketing guy. And digestive support, both with a plus after them. We'll have more from Dr. Ruth Ann on the nutrition and the science behind it in these new Purina formulations. And how do they determine whether it tastes good or not? That's the number one question for me. Plus, we'll get into the fix it segment as well. Get your dog warm after a wet winter hunt with a guide tip. It's all coming up after this word from TrulockChokes.com. Now, confess it if you must. Many of us do not know exactly what is in the muzzles of our guns, what constrictions, what kind of choke tubes, and whether or not that's the right ones for you in any given situation. Well, Scott Trulock can help solve that problem. He's got 2 online tools that'll help. The first is one that will guide you through all those little scratches and notches and the dots here and all that other stuff on the end of your choke tubes to tell you exactly what is in the barrel of your gun. Once you learn that, maybe you want to switch. Maybe you want to upgrade. If you want to do that, just as simple. They've got another online tool that will lead you down the path. What kind of shotgun? What gauge? And then here are the choke tubes that TrueLock offers that will serve your gun and make you a better shooter. Learn more about all of that and how carefully they design, engineer, and manufacture their choke tubes. Go to TrueLockChokes.com. And welcome back to this insider edition of the Upland Nation podcast. I'm Scott Linden, your host. That's Dr. RuthAnn Lobos. She's a senior veterinarian at Purina. We're talking about the two new formulations that are actually quite relevant for a lot of us. I'm just gonna throw it out there. Based on what you told me, RuthAnn, most of us probably own a senior hunting dog. And these are things that we need to be more cognizant of. When you start with, if the inspiration is let's serve senior hunting dogs, or let's serve dogs with digestive issues, somebody has to at some point say, well, we can add prebiotics, probiotics, postbiotics, and we can change some of the other ingredients. How critical is that, and what kind of ingredients are we going to see in these two new formulations?
Yeah, so it does take a whole team. And that's why I feel so blessed to work at Purina with our nearly 500 researchers and scientists that we have. And there are, I would say, um, maybe I'm biased, but I really think, we have top across the industry. We've got the best lineup of experts of any other pet food company that's out there. We do, like if, for example, when we take Juliet Gentili is the nutritionist who formulated the Advantedge on the dog side, both the Digestive Support Plus and the Senior Support Plus. And she is not only super smart when it comes to understanding the nutrients and the combination and the digestibility, but she's also an avid dog, has an avid competitor in the dog athlete space. So she has a border collie and I'm sorry, an Australian Shepherd. And they do a lot of work. They just started in the herding space. They do agility. So she really understands the canine athlete. And I think that to me provides just an additional level of perspective when you're making a new formula. It's like, this is a little bit of a tangent, but we have a diet out there called Live Clear, which is for cats. But it's formulated to help to neutralize the allergen that people who are sensitive to cat allergens react to. And that whole diet was inspired because our immunologist who works on staff, his daughter was allergic to cats and she desperately wanted a cat. And he's like, how can I take my training, my career choice, and be able to satisfy the want of my daughter? And so that is really what fuels a lot of the inspiration for how and where our products expand and hit the shelf. And to me, that is, I don't know, I think that is just something super special about Purina and the products that we put forth. So when we look at this Digestive Support Plus, and it's going to be from a product standpoint, it's going to be pretty similar to sensitive skin and stomach salmon, which is ProPlan's number one selling SKU that's out there. But then it has those prebiotics, those probiotics, and postbiotics in there to really help support the digestive needs of the dogs who need that extra support. And they're out there. So, it is, again, if GI upset is one of the top two reasons why people bring their pets into the office, we look at that and say, okay, our current offerings and the industry's current offerings aren't meeting those needs. So how do we meet those needs from a Purina perspective? And that's how we wind up in this space.
So salmon would be the primary protein source in that one?
Yep, yep.
It,
So it's salmon, and then the primary carbohydrate source is oats. And so we also know that chicken is one of the most common proteins that dogs react to and can be sensitive to. So in this formula, there's no poultry byproduct, there's no poultry, so it is chicken. It's made with no chicken-based ingredients in there for those dogs who are sensitive to that as well.
got it. At some point, yeah, and I was there. You have a plant that just runs test runs of all the new stuff, and then probably some quality control and that sort of thing as well. Uh, Comes off the assembly line, if you will, comes out of the cooking process. Um, somebody's got to test that stuff. I mean, somebody's got to eat it. And back in the day, that was always, of course, the rumor was that the low man on the totem pole at Purina has to actually put it in his mouth. But it's probably mainly dogs right now, isn't it?
Yes, yes. I am happy to report, and I think again this is another strength of our organization is we have behaviorists on staff. We have feeding behaviorists on staff because like us eating something is a very different experience than a cat or a dog eating something, right? So when we think about it, their face is right up against whether that's the kibble or the canned food, like, and then you look at, a dog is going to have about 300 million scent receptors in their nose. Which is about, I don't know, like 60 times as many as we humans have. So just that sensory input for them is way different than it is for us. They also have fewer taste buds than people do, which is why that's how I chalk up why my Labrador eats the random things that he does when we're out hunting. Because I'm like, oh, he can't really taste that. That's why he thinks it tastes good. Um, so by having all of this expertise on staff, and then we do have a group of what I like to refer to as our taste testers. So they, both dogs and cats, and they let us know whether this formula, is going to be palatable for them and delicious for them, or whether it's not. And if I say this sometimes, but I think it holds true all the time is that it doesn't matter. Like we could put prebiotics and probiotics and postbiotics and all of this in there, and they could have all of the superfoods that ever existed on the planet. But if the dog won't eat it and it stays in the bowl, it doesn't matter. Like, they're not getting that benefit. And so we really do. We put it through the ringer with our taste testers. We also look at what comes out the backside to make sure that it is being absorbed and utilized by their bodies. Because if it's just blowing through, again, those superfoods don't do any good for both the four-legged and the two-legged that are involved.
Okay, so no longer does the low man on the totem pole have to taste the dog food. He has to put what's left at the end of the day on a slide and look at it in the microscope.
Exactly.
Well, I've said it more than once. When I feed my dogs, I sit there and I watch them, and it appears to me they're having a wonderful time. What if they have fewer taste buds than us, but they have so many more scent receptors? Is it they're just enjoying all of those incredible smells, or what else makes them appear to me like they're enjoying it so much?
Yeah, well, I would say it's probably a combination of the two. It is both them enjoying that sensory experience of smelling all of the deliciousness that's there, but then it's also goes back to the formulation and making the ingredients that are included in there not only provide the right nutrients that they need, so not only the right protein and carbs and fat and vitamins and minerals, but also honing in on what their taste buds prefer so that even though they have fewer, you still put the ingredients in there that make those taste buds pop for them. And you put it in a form that they like. So there are some dogs who really just prefer canned food or wet food. There are dogs who only like to eat dry food, or maybe they really prefer to have a combination of the two, based on the mouthfeel, and that experience that they have. And there's nothing wrong with any of that approach, to feeding them. You can feed a dog all wet food, you can feed them all dry food. And it really is, what you want to feed and what your dog wants to eat, and putting that combination together with the caveat of keeping them in ideal body condition. So keeping them lean.
And you walk into most veterinarians' offices and they'll have a little chart. You look at your dog from above, bird's eye view of your dog. Describe what is an ideal body condition so we can just visualize that.
Sure. I like to call it the healthy hug. So it's 3 steps. You put your hands on their ribs, and you should be able to feel their ribs, kind of like running your fingers over the back of your hand. And then from that bird's eye view, they should have an hourglass shape. So it should go in after their rib cage and kind of flare out by their hips. And then lastly, if you look at them from the side, they should have an abdominal tuck. So their rib cage should be lower and their belly should go up. If they look like a log, they are not in ideal body condition.
Yeah,
Or worse,
I
sometimes
with
when I
one of
see
those.
the walking ottomans that come into my clinic, there's a lot of coaching that is required then by me, if hopefully that pet owner is willing to listen.
And just for fun, how much of a dog's weight problem is really their owner's weight problem?
Yeah, I mean, there can be very much correlation to that. There can also be the fact, which I think is probably the epidemic, I think, is twofold. One, because so many dogs are overweight. If your dog is overweight, it looks like everybody else is, so you think that's normal. And then, there are a lot of my colleagues as veterinarians who don't want to have that conversation. They don't want to
Yeah.
offend the owner.
Mhm.
They don't want to hurt their feelings. They don't. And, to me, I'm like, I have to be an advocate for the pet's health. And I'm not shaming them. I'm helping to educate. And I really want to get on the same page together, because it not only shortens their lifespan, but it also just makes their day to day exponentially harder when they are
Yeah.
overweight.
Yeah. And the opposite, a lot of sporting dog owners in particular, somebody from next door or across the street or at the dog park will say, "You're starving that dog. I can see their ribs." What's a good response to that kind of accusation?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the best is that, you're an educated dog owner, and keeping them lean actually helps them to live longer and live healthier. And then if they really want to go next level, tell them to go to purinainstitute.com, and they can read all the research that supports keeping their dog in that condition, helps them to live longer and healthier.
I love it. Pardon me. Thanks for that one, because we do get it periodically and
I
it's
bet.
kind of annoying. Well,
Yes.
so we've got the new formulations, and many of us, because our dogs are older, are going to need to look at that. Many of us whose dogs maybe get an unusual dietary addition once in a while, or not, maybe need the digestive version. Advantedge. Give me the two brand names officially
Yes.
one more time for us.
Sure. It's Advantage Digestive Support Plus and Senior Support Plus.
And Advantedge is how
That's
we're going
right.
to spell that. Well, I can't wait to see those. This will be on virtually within a day or two of that new product shipping. So I'm really excited about that. And everybody here, hey, you heard it here first on the Upland Nation podcast. RuthAnn, if you have just a moment more, I'd like you to kind of tell us, in the world of dog feeding in particular, sporting dog feeding, what are some of the dumb things we might do, or what are some of the smart things we should do that you cringe when you hear about this stuff?
I think my top recommendation is your dog, if you are hunting in the morning, do not feed your dog that morning. They should eat the night before. And then when you're done and they are recovering from the day of hunting, that's when they are at the ready to absorb all those nutrients. Feeding them in the morning is not going to do you or them any bit of good. This isn't related to feeding, but it is to hunting. And it's one thing that I feel like every sporting dog owner should do is the tailgate check. So takes 3, maybe 5 at the most minutes before you pull out of your last parking spot for the day and head back to your motel, RV, house, cabin, whatever it is, and give your dog that once over. Look in their eyes, their ears, their mouth, they're in between their little paws and the pads of their paws, and their undercarriage, all of that. Just give that a once over, because I can't tell you how many times it's like, I didn't even know he had a 7-inch gash underneath his body. And if you're hunting with either a long-haired, dark-haired dog, like, you might not see that. And the longer a problem goes unnoticed, the bigger it gets and the longer it takes for them to recover.
Thank you. That is absolutely true. I've found exactly that once or twice over the years. So everybody, and the trick to this is get them up off the ground so you can literally look underneath at their undercarriage and that sort of thing. And I'm colorblind, so I have to run my hand over everything and then look at my hand for blood. That's something maybe other people don't have to bother with, but check it all out. And then check out the 2 new formulations if you've got a dog that might be needing just a little bit of pardon the pun, an edge when it comes to his age or his digestive function. Purina, are we going to call it Pro Plan Advantedge? Is that what we're doing?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Pro Plan Advantedge.
Okay,
yep.
Great. It's all available. You want more information, you know where to go, Purina. Let's go to Pro Plan Sport. You tell me where to go, Ruth. I'm so used to using it.
Scott. You gotta go to proplan.com. It'll have all the information there for you.
There you go. It's always fun to talk with you. This time, better than by phone, but not as good as in person. But thank you so much. Appreciate your help. That's Dr. RuthAnn Lobos, Senior Veterinarian at Purina. And learn something every time you come on with me. Thanks so much. Have a great day. And thanks for being part of the Upland Nation podcast.
Thanks for having me, Scott.
And that portion of the program has been brought to you by Mid-Valley Clays and Shooting School. If you're looking for a Browning shotgun, there's no better place to start your search. Yeah, go to midvalleyclays.com. Here's my advice. Get the phone number. Call Dave Fiedler. Dave has got a line on all the Browning models, including a lot of the hard-to-find models you may not get anywhere else. I know for a fact because I've talked to the folks at the factory, and he is on their A list. Speed dial, if you will, and vice versa. So if you're shooting for a Browning, Dave Fiedler is your counselor. He will ask you a few questions about what you're looking for and then make some suggestions, whether it's a hard-to-find model, specific high-quality wood, or a certain gauge, including all those sub-gauges that are a little bit harder to find. MidValleyClays.com is where you ought to start your search. Call Dave, and good luck, because you're going to need it. You'll be hunting a lot more with that brand new shotgun from MidValleyClays.com. And shooting that shotgun could still be a challenge. That's why I'm using high-vis sights. Yeah, they make that, what would I call it? The subtle, subconscious connection between the muzzle of your gun and the bead, if you will, and the flying target. You match those up by focusing carefully on the flying target, but your mind's eye is still seeing that bead because it can't miss it. Yeah, those fiber optic interchangeable light pipes are unbelievably visible. You can change out the colors real easily depending on the atmospheric conditions. Dark, light, cloudy, it doesn't matter. And You can move the whole thing from one shotgun to another. Learn more by watching the video. It's all at highvissites.com. All right, let's fix a problem that becomes a little bit more prevalent this time of year. We got a dog that's working hard in the field. There might be snow on the ground. There might be rain. There's always mud, isn't there? Well, that dog comes in after a hunt like that, and he's shivering. And if you didn't do it before, it's not too late. Thank you, Al Gadori, for this great tip. If you want to learn more about Al, go to 6X Outfitters, by the way. But Al clued me into this a while back, and I think it's worth mentioning again. Those neoprene vests that you forgot to put on the dog before he hunted, put it on after he hunts. It'll insulate his body. It will keep him a little bit warmer. And if he's wet, that body heat will then help dry him off a little bit where the neoprene vest is, at least. Yeah, bring a towel, bring one of those ShamWows, whatever it is. Get that dog as dry as possible, as soon as possible. Put on that extra layer, that neoprene vest, and get your dog warm after a hunt if you didn't think about it beforehand. You want more on dog care? I've got a whole section in there at findbirdhuntingspots.com. Well, once again, thank you, Dr. RuthAnn Lobos of Purina, for all the insights and spilling on the brand new products that are coming out. Advantedge is the name of the category. They've got a senior and a digestive version. And if you appreciated the show, please tell one person. If you can, and I thank you for this, all your comments at the social platforms. Learn something, help somebody. That's what the whole idea is there. If you could do us all a favor, leave a rating or review wherever you get your podcasts. That's how we grow around here. And then thank you to all the sponsors who make this all possible. Yeah, starting with Purina Pro Plan Sport Dog Food, Mid-Valley Clays and Shooting School, True Lock Choke Tubes, Pointer Shotguns, Sage and Breaker Gun Care Products, Heartland Lodge, Cable Gang Stakeout System, and High Vis Suiting Systems. Sign up for our newsletter at findbirdhuntingspots.com. And until I see you in the field, I'll see you right here next time. I'm Scott Linden for the Upland Nation Podcast.